If you take somebody's phone away to manage their behaviour, you might get short-term compliance, but you might also create long-term escalation, resentment, and covert behaviour. Today, I want to challenge the idea that control equals safety, because often it doesn't. Hello and welcome back to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker. This episode, we're going to talk about a modern scenario that's showing up all over the place and a conversation that seems to be dominating certain areas of our society. Phones, screens, devices, online access, and the power struggles that come with them. I recently did a post on LinkedIn talking about exactly this, that I agree with the panic about screens and social media, but not because every child with an iPad is doomed and that every device or application is the next boogeyman, but because we've spent years pretending a design problem is a parenting problem. If the platforms that are out there are so designed to hijack attention, flatten boredom tolerance, and keep children scrolling and engaging, of course, that's going to impact on behavior. Of course, it's going to affect sleep changes. Of course, it's going to affect regulation issues. But here's where the lazy takes practice. The answer cannot be just screens are evil, or parents need to toughen up, or social media should be banned, because that's one of the conversations that's happened. And obviously, over in Australia, you've got the ban of children utilizing social media before the age of 16. And I get it. But we have to remember that there is always, like any technology, there's always a positive and a negative side to it. You know, the typewriter has been used for good things and has been used for bad things. All technology is. We have to remember that some children genuinely benefit from the right technology, used in the right way with the right support around it. And social media can be a force for good if used with appropriate level of support, coaching, and boundaries. We have to remember that we're all walking around with essentially this computer with us now, that our children, it's going to be their job. It's going to be part of their lifestyle. So why wouldn't we want them to learn it? If we want them to learn maths and English now, wouldn't we want them to be able to navigate the technological world at an earlier stage than when they're expected to start getting work or getting into the workplace? So the real question is not just how much screen time. It's really being a bit more nuanced. What kind of content, what kind of child are we working with? What kind of support and what kind of nervous systems are we shaping? The blanket outrage is easy, right? But nuance takes work. And that's where so many people struggle. The knee-jerk reaction is to go into control mode. And that's the problem, is that children always pay the price when adults choose the easier option. So I do worry about a ban on social media. I feel I used an analogy on LinkedIn, which is it's a bit footloose philosophy on tech. And the problem is when any potential ban on anything tends to create misuse rather than prohibition. Look at every time we've tried to ban something. Look at some of the most popular movies ever been. They were the ones that were banned first off because people tried to then limit people's access to them. And as soon as you limit people's access to them, it makes people want them more. That's the nature of people. So wouldn't it be better to create a safe philosophy around using it or another? And somebody made a comment in my post as well going, referring to having a support plan. I've created a free resource. And if you comment on any of the socials or any of the related to this, or send me a message to andy@able-training.co.uk, just stating screen, then I'll send you a free resource, which is like a family commitment tool. It's a home electronics plan and family commitment tool. Because I'm a big believer that, again, it's parents say, do as I say, not do as I do, but children will do what they see. And if they see a parent not being able to regulate their time on screen, well, then straight away the child's going to struggle to regulate on screen. So creating a family commitment of when the phone is going to be used, not going to be used, where is it going to be charged, what are the kind of boundaries around it that everybody can kind of work to. And obviously that can be adapted based on age and responsibility and needs and stuff like that. But it can be a personalized strategic plan. So feel free to message me if you'd like a free copy of that. But there's more to this, because suddenly we've got this device that then adults are aware that children want, which means that rather than the old principles of grounding that don't work because children don't care about going out sometimes anymore, or taking away kind of physical abuse or corporal punishment as far as being an option, suddenly we've now got this electronic as a way of manipulating our children. And we have to kind of bear that in mind, that we are using it as coercion. We are using it as a threat. Now, I'm not a fan of that in the slightest, but I get where people fall back to that kind of simplistic kind of principle. The problem is, again, as we said at the beginning, it can create resentment, frustration, and just covert behavior rather than anything else. So, but let's say we've got some genuine concerns. Let's create a scenario. A young person, let's say in supported living or living with you, staying up all night on their phone. They refuse routines. They're exhausted. They shout when staff prompt them to come off or when parents want them to come off. A member says, right, hand it over. You're obviously not responsible enough yet. So phone gets taken. The young person escalates. Threats, damage, absconding risk, all complete shutdown. And now everyone says, see, that's why we had to take it. They can't regulate their behavior. They can't act mature enough. But that's confirmation bias. It's using the reaction to justify the trigger. So we often assume that the phone's the problem, right? But phones are just a tool. That's it. The phone itself is not the problem. The function it's serving is meeting a person's need. There is providing. All behavior has a benefit. And rather than just being judgmental, we have to go, what benefit are they gaining from this? It might be that they're connecting. It's a way of socializing. They feel more connected. They feel less lonely. They feel like they've got somebody to talk to. It might be avoidance. They don't have to sit with their own thoughts. They don't have to think about anything. They can distract themselves, or they don't have to do other things. It could be a control thing. Hey, their phone allows them autonomy. They get to choose the app. It's just like we used to have it with toys, but now it's with the phone. We're learning skills. We're learning abilities through that process. The big one is it's probably to do with dopamine regulation. The unfortunate thing is we're living in a world where fast dopamine, that quick hit of dopamine, is so available to us and it's so addictive that now if we can't get it, we seek it. How many of you out there, the first thing you do when you wake up in the night or the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is pick up your phone? Before you even open your eyes properly, you're already picking up your phone. And it might be because you're turning the alarm off, but it might be to see what messages you've got, what's going on out in the world, whether you've received any likes on a recent post. Now, if I was to change that terminology from a phone to a glass of whiskey, and the first thing you did when you woke up was have a drink, I think we'd be labeling that as something very different. So we all have to recognize that there is this dopamine-seeking behavior that we're all engaged in. And the problem is, phones provide this excellent source of fast dopamine, which is a bit like the same as Haribo sweets deliver a fast hit of sugar. But obviously we know that's not good for us if we eat nothing but Haribo. But our human nature is to eat the fatty substance, to eat the sugar, to get the calories in. It's only that we have to then regulate that, inhibit that as we get older, and we start to realize we don't get away with eating all the sweets, and therefore we have to watch our weight or have to manage our health, or we notice it on our skin. But this is exactly the same with phones. But children may struggle to regulate that in the same way. So yeah, absolutely. They need support. They need teaching. They need help, not punishment. It might be anxiety management as well. Phones are an excellent way of distracting from emotions. How many of us, when bored, go on our phone? How many of us, when we feel anxious, use our phone to distract us? So we have to recognize, again, it has a benefit to it. So if you remove the strategy without replacing the need or managing the stress, then you don't solve the problem. You just remove their potential only coping tool. So what they're going to be is hyper-focused on finding that coping tool again. If we don't offer them anything else, they're going to go back to what they already know. If we're looking to replace or build the replacement, we need to look at what the phone might be doing for them. And it could be multiple things, right? It could be connection. It could be the way they communicate with their friends. It could be how they seek reassurance when they're feeling vulnerable or when they're feeling ignored or like they don't matter. It might give them a sense of belonging as part of certain groups or forums or communities that they found on social media. Whether those are positive or negative, it's irrelevant. The same as gangs provide a sense of belonging and community. We have to understand the function behind it is not wrong. Just unfortunately, the delivery system is a thing that we're concerned about. Is it to do with control? They're choosing something in a life full of being managed that they can manage. They get to choose their apps. They get to choose what they do on it. So is it related to control? So where else in life could we provide that control for them? Where are they missing it that we might be able to give it more? Is it around comfort? Because it's a distraction from anxiety or fears or thoughts. Is it competency? Maybe it's something in one thing in life they're really good at. Are they really good at the game they play on their phone? They're told constantly at school that they're not good at work. They're not good at academics. They're not good at maths. They're not good at English. They're not good at art, whatever it is. But this little thing in their hand constantly gives them reassurance. Hey, look how well you did. Look how brilliant you did. Look, have some more points. You have to remember that competency is a huge part of our well-being. And you notice that much of this is fitting into my 6 C's model for those of you to listen to other talks. So competency is something that's going to give that self-esteem. Unfortunately, it's obviously a false self-esteem because it's something incredibly simple, or sometimes incredibly simple, they're getting validation for. And the final one is it's giving some form of challenge. It's giving some level of stimulation. It's a boredom relief. So what we look to do when we're building out a plan is we need to think about, okay, well, which of those are being met? And then we need to look at, okay, well, how can we reduce that need? So maybe it's about giving a structured day when it's related to boredom. Maybe it's trying to provide other opportunities for meaningful activity, things that they find meaningful. And then that can be really difficult when you're competing against this fast dopamine producing phone, okay? But predictable routines, giving them autonomy and control. We can also look at offering alternatives, we could look at where else can they get connections? How else can we help them to regulate and give them other tools as far as calming routines? If a child uses their phone to manage anxiety, but there is no adult teaching them better ways of managing their anxiety, hey, at least the phone's there. At least the phone's trying. At least the phone works. Okay? If nothing else is offered, what are they going to do? Is there other options for purposeful and meaningful activities? Then we may be able to create boundaries around the other things. So whenever we're doing it, it's a wonderful book. I recommend it to anybody who hasn't read it, called Atomic Habits. And he talks about if we're looking to change habits, we've got to make the behavior that we want or the habit we want more easy, obvious, attractive, and rewarding. And then we need to add friction to the behavior we don't want. So if rather than kind of thinking, okay, what do we don't want? We've got to kind of think about what do we want them to be doing rather than we don't want, which is a whole principle of my target system. Okay. So let's go through a few practical steps that may work. And again, nothing is absolute and all children are different. So therefore, we might have to kind of work around this. And it can be extremely hard when you're going into the teenage years because, again, they're higher level of autonomy. And that's where role modeling is so important. But here's maybe a better way of working it than just telling them, hand it over. Step 1, agree the boundary when calm. Don't try and negotiate this at midnight. Don't do it when you're in conflict. Don't do it when you're having an argument. In a calm conversation, let's look at this. Is they're focused on the same activity scenario as far as they're staying up at night looking at their phone. Maybe we can look at it going, okay, what would you like your sleep patterns to be like? How do you feel in the morning when you don't get a lot of sleep? Is it impacting in other areas of your life? Do you feel you're missing out on things because of that? And what support could actually help? What could we do to help that person to overcome the challenges or whatever the phone is doing? Let's discuss it with them. Let's make it collaborative rather than confrontational. So step 2, create a couple of options or create a list of different options. There's loads of times on this podcast where I've talked about just going through and exploring every possible outcome that we could kind of try. And we don't have to then do any of those. We just have to kind of let's just brainstorm some ideas. And then we can kind of go, okay, could you live with that? Or is that something you could never live with? But we might just offer 2 options, which is, okay, let's say at night, either got one or 2 things. Your phone could stay in your room, but we'll turn the Wi-Fi off at that time. Okay. Or it could be option B. Okay. The phone gets charged not in your room, but you get to choose what time you hand it over. But the power is in the choice. The power is giving them the autonomy that it's them looking at their own well-being rather than staff trying to force them. Make it measurable though. Much easier to kind of give not just be responsible, but be something like, okay, so how about we set it that 11 o'clock you're in bed, but lights out by 11:30. So you've got that half an hour to go to your phone. So then the Wi-Fi go off at 11:30, or then we take, the phone comes out at 11:30, or however you want to work it. Now, step 4 is plan for slip-ups. In the cycle of change, when we're looking at a person changing behavior, we always have relapse. Because like any change of habit, we're going to be times when we slip back into that old habit. The same as any of us out there who've ever been on a diet that ends up eating a pudding when they know they shouldn't. But that doesn't mean you failed your diet. It just means that you made a choice at that time. Maybe it was too hard. Maybe you really were in the mood for a snack. Maybe you deserved it because you worked really hard. And we take it away completely. Hey, all we're doing is punishing the relapse. Instead, we should be going, hey, no problem. Let's go back to what worked, what didn't work, what could we try differently next time? And we explore it as a kind of a problem to solve rather than, again, something to punish. So if they break the plan, don't jump to punishment. Return to repair. Okay, what happened last night? What do we do to adjust? Is something we need to look at the rule differently, or do we need to set boundaries more clearly, or how do we need to work this? And that's how you start to build responsibility instead of rebellion, which is the ideal that we're looking for as far as kids going out into the world and navigating the world by themselves. We don't want them in a rebellion state. We want them in a responsibility state. Phone bans work until they don't anymore. Okay, so the deeper issue is looking at why are they doing this rather than why they're not doing this, or how can we stop them? We need to provide alternatives. So don't just remove coping strategies, replace them and try and reduce the need in the first place. Now, if you want a consistent system for building proactive plans, especially around this, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I do have a free resource that's available on the able-training.co.uk website. If you put in /resources, you'll find on there the home electronics plan and family commitment tool. It's welcome to anybody, completely free. And it'd be a useful way of just doing an analysis within your own home of looking at the risks, looking at what boundaries could be put in place for both the children and for adults to make the use of electronics more safe. Okay. How you found that useful? Like, comment, and share. Cheers. Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behaviour that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behaviour can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later, wishing for an umbrella. What if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature, and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict, and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience, and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities, or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation, and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today.